Mm. Good evening. This is Victoria of Women's Issues, Women's Voices, and I have with me in my Zoom studio, Quana Madison. And Quana and I have known each other a few moon cycles. I think that we met sometime in the mid to late 90s, maybe.
Yeah.
So she is she was a Columbia resident for a long period of time. So some of you may recognize her name or her voice. And I'm so happy to tell the listeners where you are in the world right now, Quana.
Excellent. So I am based now in Denver, Colorado, and I'm an artist, mindfulness teacher, and healing arts workshop facilitator here.
Speaking my language. And I know that the listeners, when I'm doing this on the radio, can't hear, but I didn't ask you, is that all that your art around you?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
These are all different paintings around me.
So I'm just going to describe to you that there is just so much color and life, shapes and forms, energy, and yeah, life all around.
It's very intentional. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So when I thought about so the idea for this interview, for this project that I'm doing, that I'm calling the Story Hour, Women's Voices. When a friend of mine on Facebook brought this up, like your face popped right into my head. I was like, I've got to connect with her. So is there anything you want to say about the story you want to share? Or do you just
Yeah,
want to, just start?
yeah. I'll go ahead and just say that the story that I want to share is about experiencing life-changing health issues and embracing the arts, especially expressive arts, as a way to cope, to heal, and promote mental and emotional well-being.
Mm. So does your story have a title?
Actually, I did not title it, but
Oh, okay.
it, yeah,
Yeah.
just speaking some of my lived experiences.
Okay. So listeners, I just invite you wherever you are to just let go of your breath and let it flow back in. Just settle into the support of wherever you are, whether that's the chair, your driver's seat of your car. The earth is always under there. And just let yourself listen. Listen with your ears, listen with your heart, listen with the cells of your body.
Thank you. So in 2016, I was living in Boulder, Colorado, and I was in the middle of my PhD program at the time when I suddenly lost 30 pounds in under a month. And I had unexplicable pains that were happening that were very explosive in my abdomen that would cause me to collapse. And it was happening with a lot of frequency, several times a day. And then eventually I noticed that one of my breasts was expressing blood. And so I sought out medical attention, and genetic testing revealed that I was extremely high risk for developing breast, ovarian, and uterine cancers, and that my abnormal growths were the apologies about that. My abnormal growths were the beginning of precancerous cells, and my oncologist recommended an immediate preventative hysterectomy, orphorectomy, which is the hysterectomy, removing the uterus. Orphorectomy is when you remove the ovaries and the fallopian tubes. And I was also recommended to have immediate double mastectomies and then breast reconstruction due to my BRCA1 gene status and some other suspicious symptoms that just suddenly had happened to me. And so several months after my surgeries, I experienced a life-threatening complication called a vaginal dehiscence and evisceration, which basically means the part of my vagina that had been sewn together after the hysterectomy had broke apart, and basically I began to give birth to my bowels through the open wound. And I was bleeding heavily and went into shock. And the 911 caller who I was speaking to was trying to keep me conscious and trying to tell me to keep my legs together, and had basically said that if I don't stay conscious and keep my legs together, I was going to die. And during this experience, I had a profound out of body life experience where as I was bleeding out and coming out of my body, being surrounded by, I say light beings, I think other people use the word angels, but my higher power. And despite the terror and fear that I had with what was happening and feeling myself bleed out to death, I felt this profound sense of love and connection through my spiritual energy that was surrounding me. And in that time, I felt unconditional love and a sense of peace to go, okay, if I get to stay here, how would I like to use my life? And what do I feel called to if I get the opportunity to stay in my body? And I thought about that and felt a calling in my heart to use art and to help me. And if I survived this experience, that I had it as a dream to start art making and to use art as a way to not only help myself with this experience, but to help bring light to others in whatever ways I'm called. And so after that experience, the EMTs arrived and were rushing me to the hospital that was 45 minutes away during afternoon traffic, which anyone who's been to Denver knows that trying to go 45 minutes away during like rush hour could be double the time. And the EMTs told me my organs were shutting down, and they went through great lengths to keep me alive in the ambulance to get me into the hospital. And once I arrived at the hospital, I had a group of amazing doctors who performed emergency surgery to save my life. So all this happened. And after the surgeries, though, I never got better. I ended up getting necrosis of my breast from the breast reconstruction. I was starting to experience total searing pain in my body that was new. And, frankly, I didn't understand what was happening because I hadn't had these particular symptoms before. I was starting to have stabbing pains in my hips and burning pains in my knees, and taking a shower hurt. Feeling the water hit my skin actually was causing a pain reaction. Getting dressed and having clothing on could actually physically, it was feeling painful. I started to experience these other symptoms of post-exertion fatigue, where the act of getting out of bed was taking, in some cases at its worst, 2 to 3 hours to be able to navigate out of bed with the amount of pain I was in. The self-care activities were becoming really laborious, and I could barely walk in the ways I used to. I was having convulsions and really intense brain fog, where suddenly I couldn't remember how to read certain things, and writing was really difficult, and having issues with my memory where suddenly I would forget where I was. And so it was very overwhelming. And at this time, I was about 35. And so my pain didn't improve. And I began to experience, more symptoms, and then was diagnosed with a number of chronic pain syndromes, including fibromyalgia, peripheral neuropathy, autoimmune disease, and chronic fatigue syndrome. And so with all these changes, I had to drop out of school. I couldn't work full-time jobs. I had to reteach myself how to do basic self-care with the limited energy I had and the constant pain. And through this experience, it was very challenging, but one thing that I want to share today in this story, that something that helped me and continues to help me, is the idea of using expressive art as a way to cope, to heal, to manage, and to reinvent and have new imagined futures. And so for me, the last 3.5 years, I've been on this incredible journey of exploring art in terms of expressive writing, expressive painting, doing healing arts workshops, and doing it not just for myself, but to do it in community and with others, and how art can nourish the soul and bring it back to life and nourish well-being in really powerful ways that support integrated health. And so I hope that if there's one takeaway that someone has, a listener has, hearing my story, is that if you are suffering from chronic pain or suffering from other health issues that are really overwhelming, especially conditions you have to learn to live with, that I encourage you to consider, if you haven't already, using the arts in whatever way that speaks to you as one of the things that can support your inner peace practice, and to help honor yourself despite the health challenges you may be engaging with.
So I'm just going to add that as I'm listening to your story, I'm hearing that you are the art. It's not just that you do art. It's not about the action of art. You are the art. Thank you so much.
Thank you.